So we already took a look at the Ferrari SF-24, but now it's time to take a look at the Redbull RB20 and see which one of these is a better purchase. The Redbull RB20 releases on March 1st with the new Technic Ferrari SF-24. And while the Ferrari brand has collaborated a lot with LEGO over the years, 2025 is the first year we have seen Red Bull come to life in LEGO form. LEGO Redbull F1 cars, not an actual can of LEGO Red Bull. The LEGO F1 RB20 is going to come in at 1,639 pieces, which is roughly 300 more pieces than the Ferrari for the same $230. The manual that comes with the set comes with some nice details about the creation of this beautiful car, but then we jump right into the building of the frame of the vehicle. The frame of the vehicle measures 25 inches or 63.5 centimeters long, which LEGO lists as the exact same size as the Ferrari. However, there is at least 1 extra inch in length on this RB20 from what I can see. This is definitely odd, but I'm pretty sure I didn't do anything wrong while building this that would have added an extra inch to the front of the Red Bull car. The RB20 and the Ferrari have a lot of similarities, but the cool thing is that the designers did a really good job of changing a lot of the build flow in order to keep it fresh. Up front, we have the front wing of the car, which in my opinion has a similar problem with the shape, just like we saw with the Ferrari, just not enough curve upward for downward force from the airflow. The nose cone of the car, I feel like, has a much better design than the Ferrari and just overall looks a lot cleaner. The nose of the car isn't quite as boxy, which is great. The suspension is really cool on both cars, and the suspension here in the RB20 is actually in reverse from the Ferrari. The suspension of the RB20 utilizes a pull rod up front, which compresses the Technic shock absorber when it hits a bump, while the rear has a push rod suspension system. We can see this with the bar here sitting higher on the chassis and lower on the wheel. And speaking of the wheels, like the Ferrari, we again get the really nice smooth printed tires. The wheel covers on the RB20 are accurate to the actual car, but are pretty plain and have no printing. They're basically just one solid black mold and definitely are outshined by the highly detailed Ferrari wheel covers. Unfortunately, still no larger rear tires on the RB20, just like we saw with the Ferrari. The blue color of the body panels on the Red Bull car look good, but they are slightly off from the actual car, which has a much deeper and darker blue color. I did like the fact that we have this full yellow air box, which does match the actual car really well and flows nicely into the large stickered Red Bull symbol. Unfortunately, like with the Ferrari, everything on this car is stickers. The only printing is on the wheels. The logos on the build do match up really well to the actual car, so no complaints there. And then moving to the back of the car, we have the adjustable rear wing. The rear wing and frame looks a little more boxy than that of the Ferrari, so I think the Ferrari outshines the RB20 here. I also like the use of the hockey stick on the Ferrari better for the swan neck than what was done here with the RB20. We have a very similar halo and cockpit on the RB20. The steering wheel is pointed down, which I like better, but still no logo on the actual steering wheel. I'll also point out that the side mirrors are much more extensive on the Red Bull car versus the Ferrari. And lastly, we can remove the entire airbox to get down to the engine, which has the same 2-speed gearbox, which can adjust like so. I will say the airbox was a much more complex and larger build than the Ferrari, but under the hood, you can see the internal workings a lot better on the Ferrari than that of the RB20. So if that's important to you to see all the internal workings, keep that in mind. The build experience was the same in a lot of ways, but at the same point in time, it was also very different, which is kind of odd to say, but it's cool because it definitely kept things fresh building one car and then moving on to the next. Now, if I had to pin down which one I thought was better, I would probably have to go with the RB20. It was just a little bit more complex. I thought the build experience was just a little bit better. Not much. They were both great builds, but with the 300 extra pieces, you just got a little bit more complexity. So on the build experience, out of 40 points, I'm going to give the Red Bull car a 32 out of 40, which is basically just going to be 1 point higher than the Ferrari SF-24. All right, real quick, I just wanted to hop in here. We'll get back to the vehicles here in a second and see which one's better, but I wanted to talk for just a quick second about a new app that I've been playing around with called the Bricked app. You might have already heard about it. It's a really cool app. I kind of almost think of it as like the Instagram of the Lego community, but there's a whole bunch of different features with it. You've got everything from obviously connecting with other Lego fans and kind of seeing what they're building. You've got badges that you can get if you complete different milestones. You can track your Lego collection, which is probably one of my favorite features of the app itself. But then there's also just looking up sets that you're interested in, clicking through and watching reviews on the sets. And you'll see some of your favorite YouTubers on there, and you might even see one of my videos every so often. So it's just a really cool app, really cool resource for the Lego community. It's not a sponsored ad. I just want to support other Lego creators and obviously the designer of this app. I think it's a really cool app, and I think a lot of you in the Lego community might find it useful and might find it interesting. So if it does interest you, I am going to drop a link down in the description below. It's not an affiliate link. Click on it, download it, have fun, enjoy it, and maybe I'll even see you over there. The Red Bull car looks really good, especially with the massive Red Bull logo up here on the top. They did a really good job with the curves and the design, but the color does throw it off a bit if you're wanting something that looks exactly like the real car. It has the same play functions as the Ferrari, moving steering wheel and wheels by turning the top knob that connects to the internal mechanism. Its movements are very smooth, and the engine is cool, although much harder to see, as I said. And if I did have to say which one looks better, the Red Bull car looks great and is much larger, it's heavier, and all around it's just got more heft to it considering the extra pieces. However, I do think I like the fact that the colors match better to the original colors on the Ferrari, as well as I like the sleeker, more streamlined look of the car. I'm also a huge fan of the Ferrari wheel covers over the RB20. So for me, the Ferrari is the better, more accurate looking car of the two. So I'm going to put the display and play grade on the RB20 at 13 out of 20, which is basically 1 point behind the Ferrari. So with the higher piece count on the RB20, the price per piece is obviously going to be a lot better. The Ferrari is just over 16 cents per piece, while the RB20 comes in at more at the 14 cents per piece. Still not great because the previous F1 cars are much better on price per piece, but it's at least an improvement on the Ferrari. I'm also going to stick with the same thing I said about the Ferrari and say that the RB20 is going to just be a little bit of a better purchase when the price gets discounted down to the 160 to 175 range. With that, I do think the Red Bull is a much better value. I mean, with 300 more pieces at the exact same price, you would have thought the Ferrari would have been discounted another $10, $20. But 230 for both, an additional 300 pieces on the RB20. So I'm going to put the RB20 at 15 out of 20 on overall value. So on community vote, most people said pass on the Ferrari on the poll that was run on YouTube. But what did everyone say about the RB20? Well, it wasn't any better. The consensus definitely seemed to feel like the RB20 was even more of a pass, with almost 3/4 of the vote saying pass on this one. Again, it was another big surprise for me. I did get some good feedback on the last video with the Ferrari, with most comments saying that the price was the problem with the set, along with the design being better with some of the other alternative brands. I'm assuming that's the same reason for most people passing on the RB20 as well. So the RB20 did do just a little bit worse on the community vote than the Ferrari did, but pretty close. So if I did round to the nearest 10th, we're going to basically end up still at the same 6 out of 20 on the community vote grade. So here is where the final grade ends up on the RB20. The grade is not super high, with all the categories totaling up to a final grade of 66 out of 100. And this is where it's going to fall compared to all the other sets reviewed for the year so far. So which car is better for you to purchase, the RB20 or the SF-24? If we're going by the grade, the RB20 is going to be the one to pick up with 66 points, whereas the SF-24 came in with 64 points, so a 2-point difference. However, there's only a 2-point difference between both of them. They both had a great build experience. They both look really good. So at the end of the day, if you're planning on buying it, it's really going to come down to what do you like better, Ferrari or Red Bull. Now, if you're looking to pick up the new Lego STEM set, click on this video here next, and I'm going to tell you all the details on why this set got such a low grade.